Dean Susan Gooden of the Wilder School is going to tell you about some really terrific events that have to do with Governor Wilder coming up in the next year. Please come on up, Dean.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sabato, and it's indeed a delight to be here at the University of Virginia, and we're just so enthusiastic that Governor Wilder, who is a distinguished professor in the Wilder School, is receiving the Defender of Democracy Award. So thank you so much. Now, I'm at UVA. I'm a native Virginian, and I'm at the University of Virginia. And I don't want anyone at the University of Virginia to get any ideas that just because Governor Wilder is here, that that's going to be a longer-term arrangement. So, as dean of the Wilder School, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't, come to protect my turf somewhat as well. So I would like to ask all my colleagues from the Wilder School who are here to support Governor Wilder to please stand. So no, we are indeed honored for sure. But I do want to tell you, we are excited to be here and to be a part of this celebration today. Thank you so much, Dr. Sabato, and to your entire team for this wonderful event and extending an invitation for us to attend. On your table, there is a card, a little postcard, about 2 events that I want to bring to your attention and ask you to please save the date. These are very special events that have been in the making for a few years now. So the backdrop of this is a few years ago when Governor Wilder was turning 90, we were beginning to plan a wonderful gala for him to honor his distinguished career in public service as the son of Virginia. Well, this small thing called COVID got in the way of us being able to have that on his 90th birthday. So we did have a wonderful event. It was a virtual event, and that was great. But the vision was still to do a national event and to be fitting of this honor. And so on January the 20th, 2024, there will be a national ovation to Governor Wilder. This will be at the Washington Hilton, and it's going to be a grand gala. It's also an opportunity for us to raise scholarships for our students. We're partnering with Virginia Union University as well as Howard University, which of course are the governor's alma maters. That will be preceded by the second event that's listed on your card, which is going to be a premiere of a documentary about Governor Wilder's life and many of the lesser-known aspects of his life. I won't give too many of those tips away, but that will be on 5 p.m. on Wednesday, January 17th, which is the date of Governor Wilder's 93rd birthday. So we are getting the word out. We hope that you will mark your calendars, save the date as we celebrate the over 70 years of public service that Governor Wilder has performed for the Commonwealth of Virginia and for the nation, dating back to his service in the Korean War. So thank you again. I appreciate the opportunity to make this announcement, and I look forward to seeing many of you in Richmond and in Washington, D.C. for these wonderful events. Thank you.
Again, continue eating, drinking, talking, and ignoring me. I don't care. It doesn't bother. But you have to pay attention to Governor Wilder when he comes up. Okay. Thank you so much, Dean Gooden, and those are exciting events that we look forward to. It's my great honor to give a formal introduction to Governor Wilder, who I've called a friend for many decades now, and I have quoted you and cited you in so many classes. They already know a lot about you, the students who are in here, but they're going to learn more. You said 70, and you're right, because you really have to start with the Korean War. But 50 years of active involvement in politics, even as a candidate. And we were just talking, you started, Governor Wilder was the first black state senator since Reconstruction. And he was elected in a special election in 1969. And his poster, and this is the only thing that I remember that he doesn't. We were talking. I mean, I am really, Bob Holsworth knows exactly what I'm talking about. He has an incredible memory. But his poster said, his slogan was, "You can make democracy work. You can make democracy work." So from the very beginning to the present day, he has worked for democracy, to broaden participation in democracy, and to make the system effective for everyone. He attended racially segregated public schools in his hometown of Richmond. He graduated from Virginia Union University in 1951 with a degree in chemistry. That's interesting. He served in the Army during the Korean War, during which he won the Bronze Star for heroism in combat. You know, you have to think about these things. America was a almost completely segregated society then, and yet there he was trying to help the United States win the war or do as well as it could in Korea. It's really remarkable. I've lost my place. See, he would never do that. He would never lose his place, but I did. His Senate election in 1969, he got his Juris Doctorate from Howard University School of Law in 1959 before establishing his own firm, Wilder, Gregory and Associates. He's the father, of course, of 3 children, 2 of whom are with us right now, and we're delighted to have them. I remember meeting you, Governor, right after you were elected to the state senate, a couple months after you were elected, because I was working at the Capitol for another fellow state senator who's kind of in your category of that they considered troublemakers because you believed that Virginia had a future that was better than its past, and that was not a popular position for a long time. He worked his way up in the system. We were just talking about that. It makes such a difference when somebody actually knows what he's doing, when somebody understands every level of government and has worked his way toward a major position, knows where all the bodies are buried. And he admitted to me, he knew where a lot of bodies were buried, no question about it. That's a very useful thing to know when you're governor. He served for 16 years in the state senate, and I don't mean just serve the way so many of them do, sitting in a seat. He was a major leader. He was chair of major committees. He was consulted on everything because without him, you probably were going to lose. And that made an enormous difference for him and for the office that he was destined to hold. He was elected lieutenant governor in 1985, and then in 1989 he made history, and this will always be recorded, that he was the first elected black governor in American history in any state, not just Virginia, in any state. And all the ones who come since were following in his footsteps, which includes President Obama. You have to have precedents to help you believe that it's possible for you to win. Yes, it was a little bit easier for black citizens to win legislative offices because they were one of 100 or one of 435 or one of 140. It was tougher to win executive office when you were the only decision maker. And that was an incredible challenge in 1989. But he surmounted it, and it wasn't easy because there had already been 2 Democrats in a row. And Virginia was a much more conservative state back then. And even today, it's tough to get more than 8 years for a party to serve in the governorship, and he was able to expand that to 12. So that was in 1989. He took office in 1990 in an amazing ceremony that those of us who were there will always remember. Never has the state capitol in Richmond had so many people there. You could barely see. It was just packed from through in the gates and outside the gates, and he gave a wonderful inaugural address. And by the way, we had so many celebrities. It was better than any night on television. Even though the strike's over, it was still better than any night on television. But it was a stirring speech. It was a very memorable speech, and he uttered a line which I think will always be remembered, and which reminded people where he had come from and what he had achieved. He said, "I too am a son of Virginia." And right there, it had a tremendous impact on people. So he's had an incredible career, which continued. His native city of Richmond decided that it was a mess, and they desperately needed to have a popularly elected, strong mayor. So they passed a referendum to do it, and they approached Governor Wilder and said, "Would you please do this?" You know, not many former governors would do something like that, but it was his home city. He loved it. He wanted to do something for it. He agreed to run and won overwhelmingly, and straightened things out in Richmond. It's since gotten a little messed up again, so he may have to run for the second term. I don't know, but he did a terrific job. Stepped down there and returned to his role as a distinguished professor at the aptly named L. Douglas Wilder School of Government and Public Affairs at Virginia Commonwealth University, while also serving as a national commentator on public affairs. He has done so many things. Just yesterday, and Bob Holsworth was involved in this and part of the panel. He had a conference on historically black colleges and universities, HBCUs, who, when he started out, were underfunded. And today, they're underfunded. But some progress has been made, a lot of it due to Governor Wilder. But it's really important to remember that we still have inequities in our system. And by the way, the word equity is a perfectly good word. It's a very important word. Shouldn't be eliminated. Shouldn't be eliminated. It's not woke, it's real. You can use that, Governor, no charge. Okay, you can use that one. So democracy depends on people's involvement. We all have to be involved in one way or another. And we have to encourage people to get involved, because many people think they have no role, that there's not going to be an opportunity for them, that they're not going to have an effect on the system. Governor Wilder's entire career has proved that one individual can have an enormous effect on the system, on people's involvement in politics, and indeed on democracy itself. So, Governor, we want you to give us a few remarks and take a few questions from students. None of the adults may ask questions. I'm sorry, this is for the students, and then we'll take the photos. But I want to, as you come up here, I want to formally present the award to you, and we will go from there. Please come up, Governor.
Wow. Now let me thank you and to say to the audience how pleased I am to be here. I usually say when you get where I am, it's pleased to be anywhere at my age. But I'm very pleased to be having the opportunity to still engage. And that's what I mean by being a part of whatever it is, and that's for you to remind me of what we had on my first campaign literature, you can make democracy work. It couldn't be any more apropos than today, because you can make democracy work. You students, you can read the history of America, read the history of Virginia, read any history that you want to. But you can make it work. You can demand what's right, but you have to criticize what's wrong. You can't be afraid to do that. And there'll be those who will tell you you'll get in trouble. Well, if that's the case, I've been in trouble all my life. And I really do like that. very fortunate now to be housed at a place with the diminutive dean rather, who's really kicking it. Former dean, Niraj Verma, is here with us. Many of my colleagues from the Wilder School are here. Friends are here. People who served in the legislature, former delegate, now member of the Board of Visitors, Paul Harris, who's sitting over there. I remember, Paul, I said to you earlier, when he was first elected, he was saying things and people were getting after him, and he told them, said, don't toy with me because you are. But today, it's more important for you to be involved than ever before, because we are slipping. We're losing it. People are being elected to be elected. And who are you? I am the senator. I am the representative. I am the congressman. So what? I recall when we first started our law practice, and my good friend Roger Gregory, who was here, just think about it. All of the laws that used to be passed in Virginia at the federal level, state level, and everything else, this man came to be the chief judge of the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals. That's next to the United States Supreme Court, with 5 jurisdictions, 5 states under that. And his humility remains. You wouldn't believe that he was and still is in that position. I see those of you here who have come from my school, from our school, who've written books, who are part of making things happen, and who continue to demand what's right and to criticize what's wrong. No, I never wanted to go into politics. I never wanted to go around begging for votes, begging for money and asking you to vote for me. Bob, you know that. Al Scheck-Snyder, you know, and we have the same personality. And you know, I wouldn't want to be doing that. But I came to find out, once I started practicing law, that I couldn't even sit at the same table with other lawyers. They had a black table and a white table in the courtroom. I said, this has got to be crazy. And then I was told further that there's certain things that you can't do as well. What is that? You can't be a member of the Richmond Bar Association, even though you're a lawyer, even though you've passed everything that you needed to do. Well, there must be a reason for it. Yes. What's the reason? Well, you're black. Well, you know, you can't take but so much of that if you're human, and not respond, not react, not say, look, I'm not going to ask someone else to do this. Let me see what I can do. And I was so encouraged when Frederick Reed ran for office to be elected, House of Delegates. He was elected from a floater district. For him to be elected, he had to win majority of the votes in Henrico and Richmond. Now, that's a ton of votes, and he made it. And I sat there and watched it. I said, my goodness, if he can do that, I only have to run from Richmond. I should be able to do it. And there will always be the naysayers. And I say to you young people particularly, don't run for office just to be running for office. Have a purpose. Have something in mind. You want to represent the people? What do you mean by representing them? What do you stand for? What do you believe in? How do you test your beliefs? And who do you believe that you can follow to the extent of inspiration? What inspires you, and how does it get to the point of you're making a difference? It's sickening now to turn the television on and watch what's taking place across our country. Sickening. People breaking into stores, looting, tearing things down, police on their shoulders beating them down, and people are crying as to who's right and who's wrong. When a thing is right, the time is right. And the time is always right for leadership. We have to watch people, who's going to be on the ticket next year. What difference does it make if the people suffer? What changes are going to take place? What do you really mean when you say education is key? And when you try to relate to it and try to explain a little bit about what it meant, as I said last night at the event, I wasn't supposed to be anything in terms of what the projections would have been. I wasn't supposed to be able to go to law school. Why, the only school I could have gone to would be Howard University. I didn't have any money. My father would say, I can see you through high school. I don't have any money to send you. And so I was fortunate to be able to use the GI Bill after I had gone to Korea. And I couldn't understand it in Korea sometimes when I'd be standing at the mess line to get some food, and I'd be saying, here I am fighting for these people's freedoms. And I'm not free. I've got to go home to segregation. They could come home and they could come to my country and have rights that I don't even have. And so in sitting there, I recall, and I stated this on occasion, there was a man who was from Virginia. As a matter of fact, he was ultimately at VMI as superintendent. And he said, you are here. President Truman has inaugurated desegregation efforts in the military. That is going to be carried out. That is going to be enforced. If you have any difficulty, if you have any troubles, I don't want you to take it upon yourselves to come and handle them. You come to me and you bring those concerns to me. I'll see that it's done. I said, wow, this is a white major saying these things, and he really means it. So I said, well, okay. So we went on back. So I go up on the front line. Every time you turn around, I'm being asked to go out on a patrol, between enemy lines and our lines, and behind enemy lines. And why must I always be going out there? And who's getting the promotions? The white guys. I'm still PFC Wilder. And then finally, he got to be Corporal Wilder. So it didn't work. And so I had a friend of mine who was from New Jersey. He was a sergeant, and he was complaining. And he said, let's have a meeting with the guys and we can talk. I said, well, you're the sergeant. He said, but you're the talker. Let's get them together. I said, all right. So we got together, went on down, and we said we're going to meet. And every month or so, they would allow us to come off the line to take a shower. That's what I mean. You didn't take a shower that often. You could dust off, sprinkle off, et cetera, et cetera. So it was just when you had a time to go to take the shower, that was really just a beautiful, beautiful thing. So we went there, and so he said, well, while we're here, we need to talk about some problems. So we started talking about problems, and the people started coming up sharing the same concerns that I had shared. I've been discriminated against. The guys that come over, they get promoted, we get nothing. And so the sergeant said, do you remember what Major Acuff said? I said, yeah. He said that if you've got some problems, don't try to settle them yourselves. Come to me. Come to us. I said, you're right. He did say that. He said, all right, guys, we're going to meet tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. And we're going to, so the sergeant suggested that, he said, when we go down to see the major, let's put on full battle gear. Put on our bulletproof vest. Put on 2 bandoliers of ammunition. Put our steel pots on, put our rifles on, and have our sidearms on, and our rifles on our shoulders. I said, you're right. So we marched them down. No, it wasn't that easy, quite frankly. 8 o'clock, we're supposed to be going down. 7:30, we thought we would have everybody assemble. 7:45, nobody was still. And kept looking around, so I said, Rich, they're not coming. He said, no, we're going to have to go down and get them up. So we literally had to go down and do the rest of the work. Get up. No, you're going up. Here we got to go. So we finally got people to go down to see the major. And we marched down, as he pointed out. Everybody else in the company was looking around and said, good God, is somebody going to fight? Battleproof, helmets, everything else. No, we got down there. So Richburg said, would you tell the major what we're here for? So we told the major what our problems were, how we felt we were being discriminated against, and did what he told us to do. And he listened attentively. He listened and he said it. I told you that President Truman had desegregated the forces and that it would be done. He said, I told you to go back to your units and do what was supposed to have been done. If you had some problems, you bring them to me. He said, and you have done just that. He said, now I'm going to tell you to do something else. I want you to go back to your units. And as you have pointed it out to me, you've brought the job that goes from here is mine to do. So I said, well, damn. After all of this effort, this is what he's told us to do. So, all right, first of all, when we got down there and left out the most important thing, all of the problems that the guys had before, they didn't talk about them. So I would say, okay, Larry, tell them what you said last night about what happened. Naraj, would you tell the people what you said last night that happened? The hell don't you speak up? So once I started speaking up, and then Richburg started speaking up, then there was this cacophony. They all, and that's when the major said, I want you to go back to your units. We went back to our units, and within a month, things changed. Promotions started coming forth. People started being assigned the responsibilities according to what the plan was to have been. That left such an impression upon me. You can't imagine what it meant. This white man, and ultimately came to VMI as superintendent at VMI in Virginia. This Virginian was able to carry through what Virginia wasn't carrying through because of the law. That's what is so important relative to where we are today. We are a nation of laws, not of men. We are a nation that has precepts that were born of high ideal and altruistic values. But sometimes people forget. You young people have the responsibility to not let them forget. Not let those in authority forget the responsibility, the debt they owe to those people who sacrifice not just their lives, but their sacred honor. Those who believe that America is, as some have called it, that bright city shining on the hill, that we are embodied and emboldened, but we will never, ever give up. You don't run for office just to run for office, just to be called the honorable this, thus, and so. You run for office to be effective, to be in a position of making a difference, to be in a position of making the things that matter most. I remember having a professor at Virginia Union from Charlottesville Edwin McCrary. His father was a very storied minister here, and he too had a church. And he studied at the University of in Scotland. And this Ralph Tyler Fleming wrote this book called The Things That Matter Most. Yes, I was a chemistry major, but I spent more time wanting to talk about philosophy, wanted to talk about ethics, wanted to talk about history, to talk about those kinds of things. And it dawned on me that no, this is not for me, staying here in chemistry. I'm not going to be a dentist or a doctor, not going to be a chemist. I worked for 2 years in the state medical examiner's office doing drunk driving tests. I ran all the drunk driver tests for people. I was in pathology, toxicology, examining whether people died. Oh, it was fascinating. And I thought even on one day I might get a master's degree in it, but it didn't hit me like I wanted. My boss was a chemist. The ultimate chief medical examiner was a doctor and a lawyer. And I said, I've got, when Brown versus Board of Education came out in 1954, I got out of the service in 1952. And I'm working in that office. And my boss said to me, Doug, this is amazing. Sidney Kay, he said, this is amazing. Do you know what this decision means? I said, yeah, I think I do. He said, I don't know if you do or not. He said, you're going to have to do something. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, I love you being here, like you're working here. He said, but you know, you got more on the ball than that. Being here as a technician is one thing. I said, well, you think I can make it in law school? He said, I'll do what I can to help. That's all I needed. It was that encouragement. So when Howard University allowed me to come there, and I would say to you, my grades weren't the best because my first 2 years at college, I was good. The last couple of years, I was disillusioned. I didn't want to know what I was going to do when I did finish. Where am I going to work? How am I going to work? What is it going to mean for me? And so when those horizons opened and widened for me, I saw that it was something I could do. No, I didn't want to go into politics begging for votes and begging for money, but I had to do it. It was something that if you don't do this, then what are you going to do? And if not now, it's almost like Hillel. If I'm only for myself, who am I? And if not now, when? And I said, well, I think I'm going to do that. Larry, you can't know how much it means to me to receive this award. It's not just the award, not just the accolade, but the recognition that you still here at this school recognize the need for encouraging your students to make certain that they understand, to have the university so committed to making them be a part of the nation, to be a part of their localities, that they're here to learn what to do, how to do, and when to do. And I've always been guided by this principle. When a thing is right, the time is always right. Thank you for this great award. Thank you for the opportunity of being here. And let me fumble answering some of the questions that some of you may ask. God bless you and thank you very much. Thank you. 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 All right. No, yeah. All right, any questions? Don't be like those guys down at the reservoir when we were going to take a shower. All right, what are your questions? Yes, sir. Stand up.
I guess my question for you is, what would you say is your proudest achievement during your career?
Proudest?
What do you think's been your most impactful achievement?
Well, I speak of it generally, it took me 8 years to get the Commonwealth of Virginia to pass a holiday commemorating the birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King. 8 years it took. I'd get it passed in the Senate where I was, then the House would kill it. I'd get it passed in the Senate and the House, the governor would veto it. I had 2 vetoes. 2 different governors vetoed that bill. People don't know this. They think it was just a matter of fact. Virginia became the first state in the nation to have a legislative holiday for Martin Luther King. They would have memorandums sometimes by a local government agency, but Virginia put its holiday into law, honoring Dr. Martin Luther King. I was so proud of that because there were people that would say to me, friends of mine in the legislature, they would say, Doug, I think you're absolutely right, but I can't vote for it because I can't get reelected. If I vote for this bill, I'm dead. It came to the point where some of them said, we're going to vote for it whether we get reelected or not. That was that turning point that I could see that made me know that Virginians are deserving of having that reputation of being first in the nation. Because nothing is constant in life but constant change. And to that extent, that King holiday bill let me know if we could get that passed in Virginia, we could get anything passed. Yes, sir. Well, running for the state senate wasn't broad-based. As a matter of fact, the predominant political group in Richmond at the time didn't endorse me. And yet the people did. And why did they not endorse me? I don't know now. They never would say why they did or they did not, except I wasn't to the choice of their thinking. More importantly, Larry, once I was elected to the state senate, I found out that you could make a difference. As Larry and I talked about it earlier, they didn't have microphones in the state senate when I was elected. We didn't have offices. We didn't have a secretary. You didn't have an assistant. You were paid $1,500 a year. Oh, and $50 for correspondence, for stamps and stationery, etc. That was it. So it was designed so that people of measures and means couldn't make it. I could run for the state senate because I could keep my law practice. I'm right in Richmond. I wouldn't have to leave from wherever I was, and I could run and cut it and make it and then start working on Saturdays and Sundays, as you well know, when I was in the state senate, to sacrifice that time. But it spilled over, more importantly, when I ran for lieutenant governor. I thought I knew Virginia, but I didn't know Virginia. I hadn't traveled Virginia, and I had made up my mind that I was going to, and I wasn't known. I had thought I was raising Cain in the state senate. No one knew who I was in Roanoke. No, people in Charlottesville had no idea who I was, other than a loudmouth maybe now and then. And so when I started going around, I said, "Hi, I'm Doug Wilder," and I had my grip card in my pocket to give to somebody. And they would say, "Yeah, well, what do you do?" I'm in the state Senate now, and thought I'd been doing quite a bit. But and then I learned this too. If I had a friend in that area, I would say to this friend, "I want you to be with me because I'm going to be in your state or in your area, and I want you to help me." And then that person would say, "Okay." And they would get in front of me, walking through the streets, and sometimes people would say, "Okay, fine. We want you to, here's Doug Wilder. We want you to vote for Doug Wilder." This old lady got out one time. She said, "Would you get out the way? I want to talk to him. I want to know what you're going to say." And I was told also by a good friend of mine from Christiansburg, State Senator Madison Marie. He'd served in the military. His grandfather was in the Confederate Army. My grandfather was a slave. And he said to me, he said, "Isn't it ironic? Here I'm down here pushing for you to be elected lieutenant governor, and people would think it to be the other way around." He said, "But Doug, I got some news for you. When you go into these country stores and the barber shops or wherever, you can't shake one hand, you got to shake everybody's hand that's in there. If you don't, you're going to leave some bad feelings, and people are not going to like it." So, all right, so I went to this one store, and a country store, this man was sitting there on top of a barrel. And tobacco grease stains coming through his mouth, red bandana around his neck, big straw hat on, ruddy red face. And so somebody came to me and said, "You shook everybody's hands except this man." I said, "Whoa, got to go back." Shake his hand. Went back and said, "I understand. Doug Wilder's my name, sir. I'm running for lieutenant governor. I want your vote, et cetera, et cetera." He said, "Something I want to ask you. Thought you were going to pass me by." "Oh, no, I'm here." He said, "I got something that's been on my mind." I said, "Well, I'm here to answer." He said, "I want to talk about this abortion thing." I said, "Oh, my God, I could have gotten out of here." Before I could answer him, he said to me, "Ain't no man's business no way, is it?" Now, who would have expected that from the way he looked, from the way he talked, to the way he sulked down? And that struck me in terms of saying you can't take anybody for granted. And that's when I made up my mind that I'm going to go, when I turn my campaign, as you know, because you went with me, I said we're going to go to every state and every locality, every city, every independent city, every county. I'm not going to stay in hotels or motels. I'm going to stay only in homes of people that I meet, and I'm going to stay out there for 60 straight days because I want to know the people of Virginia. And I'm not going to stay in anything but in those people's homes. And that's amazing because when I got out there in some of those areas, I knew in doing that I'd get all the press I wanted. New York Times, Washington Post, everybody following because they came to see the incident. When they were saying, "Out here, you can't out." Not a single person ever refused me admittance to an establishment. No one ever refused to shake my hand. And I could hear them talking to them people, and then one time I heard one man say, "Yeah, I know. And no, well, because I ain't never had none to vote for before." The question was, "Would you vote for him?" Can you like, "I can look at him and see that." You can't judge people by where they live, how they look, how they speak, what has been their years of forbearance. And that's why today, and I say it to you young people particularly, you got to help us rescue America. Rescue us from this dilemma of believing that the people don't matter, that the people don't count. The people do count. The people do matter. You can help that take place by demanding what is right and criticizing what is wrong. We can't let money be the determinant of elections. how much money do you have? That doesn't matter. Where are your principles? What do you believe in? What is vital to you? And what's important? Long answer to that question. Next thing. Yes, sir.
Well, hello, sir. First, I want to say thank you for taking the time to come down and speak with us today.
Thank you. I was ordered to do so by Larry Sabato.
And well, my question for you, Governor, is what would you say to those of us here today who may want to seek elected office but feel that we alone can't make a difference, that things have gotten so bad that people won't give us a chance to make our voices heard?
That the people will give you a chance. You answered the question. The people will give you a chance if you give the people a chance. And what do I mean by that? Don't wait for the people to come to you. Go to the people. Let the people know that you care enough for them to go to their country fairs, that you go to their auctions, wherever they have them, that you take part in their pie bake contest, that you that you care enough to open up your ears and listen and shut your mouth sometimes and hear what they have to say. The people, I can tell you from experience, the people are always ahead of those who represent them. Always ahead. Because they're first, they're first on the ground. They experience it. I give you an example, just one little example. I was mayor of the city at the time, and I talked to the police about wanting to have a drug bust because we knew that so many areas were pushing drugs and carrying these things all past imagination. I said, okay, well, we're gonna have a drug bust and we're gonna move around. So this guy sitting there, he had come to one of the meetings, and he came to me and he said, I got something I think you should do. I said, what's that? He said, I think when you have your drug bust and your police coming, he said, I think you ought to get your Department of Public Works involved. I said, do you understand what we're doing? I said, we're talking about a drug bust to stop people from distributing drugs, etc. He said, I heard you. I know exactly what you're talking about. He said, but I want you to go into these trash cans in these alleys where the drugs are stashed. You need to know that the houses that you think are garages are housing something else. You need to just listen to what I'm saying. So I talked to my people, and they said, yeah, we'll do it. He was absolutely right. That's one example. Another example, a lady said to me, you're talking about these people that you need to have and to check on and see what's going on. So why don't you put the pictures of these people on the buses? Because in the post office they have the people in the federal crimes. I said, you know what, let me talk to my chief of police. I did. And he said, well, we'll try it. We tried it the first weekend, the first time we tried it. Any numbers of opportunities. The people that ride the buses knew where these people were and who they were. So I think the bottom line issue in answer to your question is get as close to the people as you can. Hear them. Don't let money be the guide. Don't believe because they're not giving you any money that they don't have something they can share with you, something they can give. Next. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, sorry, kind of off of Jared's question, your slogan, you can make democracy work, has just like in these past few minutes really resonated with me because I feel like it was so pertinent to when you ran, but I feel like it's still so important now, especially with Jared's question, how a lot of us younger people feel about democracy, how it's not really working for us anymore. How does it make you feel knowing that words that you coined so many years ago are still so important and even resonating with a few of us that are sitting here right now?
Well, it's a very good question. I was inspired by people who would say that. My inspiration, quite frankly, came from home, because my mother would always tell me I could do anything if I put my mind to it. If you did it, education is one thing, but if you're going to commit to it, when that slogan is used today, I would hope that it would mean all of us need to participate. You can make, I don't care whether you got $500 or $5, you can make it work, because I want to hear what you think. I want to hear what you think is important. Surely, okay, we want to do something with health care, but what about health care? What are your experiences? Or we want to do something about education. Who doesn't want to do something about education? But what nation in the world wastes more money under the pretense of doing something for education, and we see failing test scores? When we saw as the symposium last evening, the numbers of students who are not cutting it because the tuition, the cost. Money is involved in everything political today. It is today, and it always has been. Our job is to show that notwithstanding that, you can make a difference. Vote the rascals out that are not doing the job. Oh, it takes money to get the people together. Yeah, it takes voice to get it out. Oh, if it costs me $5,000 a second to go on television, what would make the difference in terms of getting the word out? Knocking on doors, going around, holding meetings in place. And if it takes a week to do it, then take a month. If it takes a month, take 2 months. And don't be dissatisfied with lack of immediate returns on your investment. Don't give up. Don't believe that because it didn't change today or tomorrow or next week, it's not going to change. Stick to it. That's why I use the example of the Martin Luther King holiday. People who voted against it came along to vote for it and to sponsor it. Why? Because you were educating their constituents as well. Take over your opponents' oppositions. Take those persons' views from them by saying, you may have been told this, thus, and so, but here are the real facts. This is what happens. Very good question. All right. Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon.
I just had a quick question. As a trailblazer for so many African American policymakers. And
Put the mic to your mouth there.
Hello? Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Before it wasn't working.
Right.
My apologies. As a trailblazer to many African American policymakers all around America, I just had a quick question. When do you think that a woman governor would be kind of reinstated in Virginia? Or advice?
When do I think a woman governor?
Yes.
I be as blunt as I can with you. I don't think that unions measure people that way today, whether you're a woman or not, whether you're a man or not. Are you qualified? What do you bring? What are you going to put on the table beside your elbow? What new visions do you bring? What is it that we can speak to in terms of relevance? What are you going to do for education? What are you going to do about poverty? What about jobs? What about health care? It's not a measure of whether. I never, ever mentioned the word black. As a matter of fact, when I ran for governor, I told the, quote, so-called, well, not so-called, self-proclaimed leaders in the black community national, stay out of Virginia. This is my campaign. Let me do it. And they will tell you, some of them are still around, will tell you, you kept us out of Virginia. I said, I wanted to win. So my point to you is, that person who is a woman who wants to run for governor or anything else shouldn't be running as a woman. They're running as a qualified aspirant for the job based on what? Qualifications and what it is I have done and what it is I'm going to do. Don't be divided by partisanship in that regard, race or gender. Qualifications are still the key.
Thank you so much.
One more question. One last question. Yes, sir.
Hi, I just want to first off say thank you for your service, both militarily and in public office.
Thank you.
I know you've been an inspiration to a lot of people, and I know you're going to continue to be an inspiration for generations to come. So I just want to thank you first off of that. So my question, first off, I am a huge proponent of social justice. It's what I want to continue to do once I get out of college. It's like the fight and my purpose that I want to create for myself. However, being a white male, I'm afraid that my message will be misconstrued. In fighting for social justice, say, oh, I'm just doing this for public relations, or oh, I'm just doing this for a couple of votes, and I'm not actually trying to do this for the betterment of democracy and the betterment of the people. What would you say to individuals such as me and others around me who want to fight for public service but are afraid, or social justice and public service, but are afraid that my message will be misconstrued and that I'm not going to be able to have as much of an impact as I would like to?
That you should never be afraid of anything, even fear itself. Afraid for what? Afraid of who? What's anybody going to say or do to you for doing what you believe in? Suppose it wasn't political office that you were aspiring to and for, but something else. Suppose you wanted to make a better home for your family. Would you be afraid to do that? No. Fear grows if it's fed. You disband fear. You dismiss fear. You fear absolutely nothing. I will lead steadfastly into the wind and let that blow as hard as it wants to blow. But I will persist until I succeed, because I was not delivered into this world in defeat, nor does defeatism run through my blood or the blood of my ancestors. I am like a lion. I don't want to be like the lion. I like the sheep. I will not be associated with the sheep, because the slaughterhouse of failure is not my destiny, and I will persist until I succeed. God bless you.
Okay, you students, you got a real lesson in politics. That's what politics should be about. That's what democracy should be about. Governor, that was fantastic, and you've given all of them, particularly the young, a memory they will keep forever. Thank you so much. I think we're going to have people sit. Okay, they're telling me in the back. I don't know what we're doing. What? The governor's going to hang around for a few minutes. Okay, the governor's going to hang around for a few minutes for pictures up here. And again, I have to say, the students have first call on them. I'm sorry, I'm with you. I'm half your age, but I'm with you in a sense. But I still, I'm trying to lie well. Anyway, come on, the students can come on up, and Governor Wilder, it's been a great day. Thank you.